Hello, let's start. Well, I don't know what to say. Good morning, good afternoon, good night. I guess we got people connected everywhere in all continents, so let's say good afternoon for people in Paris. Thank you, everyone, for being with us, be it here in this nice hotel in Paris or remotely. I'm just going to introduce this workshop for 2 minutes, and then I will let the floor to Laure Latruffe, just to remind a few practical points. So, welcome to this international workshop called Diversifying Business Models for Biocontrol Deployment. We are together this afternoon from 3 p.m. Brussels time to 6 p.m. Brussels time, with a small pause of half an hour between 4:30 to 5 approximately. And tomorrow we're going to be together from 9 a.m. Brussels time to 5 p.m. And the session of Friday that was in the program online is actually for a small team project formed mostly by speakers and a few other stakeholders. So you don't need to connect. There will not be any online projection on a Friday morning, just to be clear. For the speakers, so remember, you got 20 minutes in total, 15 minutes of talk, plus 5 minutes for questions. And we will remind you 5 minutes, after 10 minutes, you will have this sign here. When there will be 2 left, this one. And at the end, we'll have the end. So you will have all the information needed. And last information, so all this workshop is based on the same structure. We'll have several sessions. Each session will be moderated by one person. Each one will be approximately two hours, approximately. And there will be an introduction giving an overview, providing you an overview about the type of biocontrol strategy. And eventually there will be 2 to 4 more like testimonials, examples of projects, programs, and methods. Well, I give the floor to Laure Latruffe, who is the coordinator of the French Priority Program that actually organized this workshop. Laure, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you. Hello, everybody. Thank you for being here. Just to give you a bit of context, this workshop is not organized by this program, but organized by Thibaut and his team, and also Miriam and his team, and her team. But this program endorses this workshop, and we are very happy that this workshop takes place. This is a priority research program which is called Growing and Protecting Crops Differently. I'm the scientific director, and before me, Florence Jacquet was the director. She's here with us today. And Miriam, you have seen Miriam, she's the program manager. And this is simply to tell you the idea behind this program. This is a long program for 6 years. It has been launched in 2019. And the idea is that we would like to generate breakthroughs in science in order to promote the emergence of pesticide-free agriculture in combination with high-performance agriculture. By 2030, 2040, sometimes we also think 2050, but we have this ambition here in France and in INRAE that we may achieve this pesticide-free agriculture. And for this, we have 10 research projects funded on diverse topics, diverse disciplines. You can find all the information on our website. And we have also financed a foresight study, European Chemical Pesticide-Free Agriculture in 2050. And the results have been presented a few weeks ago. And we also finance a specific study about the analysis of the social impact of research that can help researchers to achieve their goals while integrating the expectations of the society. And to generate discussions, not only in France, but also with international colleagues. We organized every year 2 events. We have a meeting with researchers and professionals. This is mostly in French. So the idea is that both researchers and professionals meet and present and discuss on a specific topic. We have organized this, for example, last year on wine growing. This year it will be on the fruits, permanent fruit. And we have also this kind of workshop as we have today, international, where we have researchers from all over the world, in Europe also, meeting together on specific topic. So I thank you for being here. On the next slide, you can find all the information from our project, or on the website, if the next slide is not coming now. And if you go to the website, you can find all the information that you need. Thank you very much. Enjoy this, and thank you for being here and participating in this workshop.
Thank you, Laure. So I'm the next speaker, actually, so I'm going to introduce myself. So I forgot to mention that my name is Thibaut Malausa. I'm a researcher at INRAE, and I will have the next talk, just an introductory talk, actually, of about 15 minutes. And so I have actually 3 points to discuss with you to start this workshop. The first one will be, well, to acknowledge people, the persons who are behind the scene. Or that will be sometimes also ahead here. 5 minutes about definitions as well, because as you probably discovered in the program, we have like a specific definition of biocontrol during this workshop. So I would like to clarify the choices that we made. And finally, and most importantly maybe, why did we organize this workshop? What was the logics behind the organization of this workshop? So first point, acknowledgements. So this is where I look for Miriam. Miriam, where are you? No, but come here. Yes. So, well, you need to know that the real organizer of this meeting is not me. It's actually Myriam Tisserand, who is working with Laure on the PPR. And she organized almost everything. I think that within 1 month, she could have performed this talk here. And I would be perfectly useless. Then, so Laure, that you just heard, is the coordinator of the whole PPR program, the Programme Prioritaire de Recherche. You probably saw the website of the event, and this was all organized by Anani, Romain, and today Corinne, who was there to welcome you. There, in the shadow of the room, there are also Noémie and Jérôme, who are ensuring that everything is going smoothly in terms of video systems. Thank you so much to Aura and Manuel, who you will hear. Actually, they are the specialists of business models. 3 years ago, I didn't even know what was a business model or a value chain. Aura explained me that on a small screen. And Manuel probably completely changed my view of crop protection within a few years, which is a revolution for me, and he will conclude this congress tomorrow, or this workshop tomorrow. Then you got all the names of the people involved in the organization committee: Marc, Xavier, another Marc coming from Switzerland, from Kaby, Vincent, Philippe, Clélia, Lucas, and Félix. So thank you very much. Thank you also to Olivier, who is not here, but who will organize the work groups on Friday morning. And finally, thank you, obviously, to all the speakers, here or remote, for accepting the invitation and providing us with all those pretty examples. Definitions. So what do we call biological control, biocontrol? First, business models. Then I will come to biocontrol. So what are business models? Actually, I don't know exactly, so I will let Aura and Manuel explain that in more details. But what I'm sure is that it's not just about money. It's not a business plan. And it's not like, you know, the typical Excel sheets about the dates and the money and how to generate profit. No, 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 it's much more complicated. It's about the history of the method. It's about the actors. It's about how to propose value, etc. So it's much more complicated, and I recommend you to listen carefully to what Aura will say just after me. Then, now, what is biocontrol? So this can be like a simple question. You may say, well, we all know what is biocontrol. Yes, but the definition is very different according to the source, place, people. For example, today and tomorrow, we will be close to the definition that is used in France, in the French regulation, that we actually used in this book called Extended Biocontrol, for you to realize how much we struggle to define biocontrol. And if we take the kind of historical paper of Eilenberg, who proposed sorting, a classification of crop protection techniques, actually the French definition of biocontrol includes, of course, biocontrol, but also autocidal control, especially the sterile insect technique, and also biorational chemical agents, like all biopesticides, So it includes many different aspects. So if I try to summarize, I would say that the definition we will use today and tomorrow would be approximately the direct or indirect use of organisms or substances identical to that found in the environment and not displaying certain risk phrases to regulate population densities of pests, pathogens, and weeds. And the way I present that in general is more like, okay, who are the players? Who are the regulators in these systems? They can be microorganisms, macroorganisms, biocontrol plants. There can be substances like semiochemicals or natural substances that can be of vegetal, animal, or even in the French regulation, mineral origin. For example, sulfur in France is biocontrol. And then how these organisms or substances are used. So they can be used like products with a company, an industry, producing, then a distributor, and then it reaches the farmer. This includes, for example, inundation biocontrol, inoculation biocontrol. In other words, augmentative biocontrol. And this includes the use of semiochemicals, microbial metabolites. Mark will speak about that later. Then it can be establishment biocontrol. In that case, the idea is not to use a native species, but it's in the case of an invasion, a biological invasion. Let's say, for example, a big, bad invasive species coming from a biodiversity hotspot. Then people like Mark or Lucas, you will choose, go back to the original, the place of origin, the area of origin of the pest. They look for specialist biocontrol agents, natural enemies, then to import them in the target area and to establish them to regulate in a permanent way the target. This is the way it's called establishment biocontrol. So this is mostly a service, actually, not a product. Then conservation biocontrol, there the idea is not to introduce the agents or substances. The idea is to promote the activity of the organisms that are already there, the ones that are already resident in the agrosystem, through different ways, ecological infrastructures, additional resources that can be under the form of products, of mixes of flowers. You will hear about this tomorrow morning. And finally, autocidal control, where there's the organisms controlling is actually the organism itself, the same species. And the idea there, for example, in the case of the sterile insect technique, is to produce in large quantities sterile males. Those sterile males will interact and compete with the resident natural ones. This disrupts the reproduction and manages to reduce the pest populations. We'll have a session about that tomorrow as well. Then finally, why this international event? It certainly comes from a personal experience of coordination of a large French network about biological control that some of you are well aware of. And well, during these 5 years, more or less, 6 years, coordinating this big consortium, the typical way we discussed with stakeholders biocontrol was this one. We were focusing only on products, actually, often, and saying, okay, so biocontrol is actually very successful in many systems like greenhouses, but overall, it's only 10% and less than 10% of the crop protection market over Europe. There is an increase, a relatively fast increase, but we were sometimes challenged by some stakeholders or public bodies that were saying, well, but you don't take into account the inflation, what are the real increase of biocontrol, does it replace really the use of pesticides, etc. So overall, the speed of the growth of biocontrol was indeed factual, but difficult to estimate, and its contribution to reducing the use of pesticides is difficult to evaluate. It's almost impossible. We have very little data about it. And then the explanation to this situation that is still frustrating, even if there are some successes, was the following. So biocontrol is arriving in markets that are saturated by the use of pesticides. They are small markets. This creates two effects. The fact that they are produced at small scale. Then there is limited investment because the penetration rates of the market are really low, and they remain sometimes small product in terms of market. This creates two effects. The small-scale production generates overall higher prices than products that are produced in large quantities, and the limited investment decreases both the availability of solutions but also create an insufficient know-how in terms of formulation, in terms of use, deployment, etc. And there is a limited use, which creates small market, and etc. And so we remain kind of blocked in these discussions, saying, well, finally we are in a sort of vicious circle, and well, how to go out from that? And well, discussing with Aura, Manuel, in the PPR, in this French program, well, we realized that we were kind of affected by a severe fixation effect, actually, and by several paradoxes when thinking about biocontrol. As I was saying, well, for many stakeholders, biocontrol is only products. And so we finally summarize a lot of diverse methods only on products. And so it makes a lot of hypotheses about the players, of the actors at play. It means that overall biocontrol is generally an organism or a substance found by a lab, then developed by companies and sold by distributors. So it makes like a very narrow definition of the business models involved. Well, actually, biocontrol is much more than that. We will discover that during this workshop. And then another fixation effect is that most initiatives, most projects focus on biocontrol, but only in the current systems, in the dominant systems. And so we don't re-question what should be or what could be the systems, and even maybe not only the cropping systems, but also the agri-food systems. And again, the idea is that often we think in systems that are or that were conceived, designed with pesticides as their cornerstone. And we don't rethink the whole system. And in the end, we try to kind of integrate, as we can, biocontrol in systems that are absolutely not favorable to biocontrol. For example, one paradox that is quite like impacting when I think about biocontrol, I made a small revision of literature. And if I try to represent in a very rough way the different types of biocontrol on an axis of cost benefits for growers or for the society, we get, well, as a control, chemical pesticides with a ratio like you put €1, you get 2. I didn't try really to rank within these methods, but semiochemicals, all that is based still on inputs, can be up to you get, well, you put €1, you get 20. And if you switch to conservation biocontrol and establishment biocontrol, you can reach things like you put €1 and you get 1,000, 2,000, because sometimes you don't need to have a recurrent effort or recurrent payment. And still, most current investments in the public sector or private sector focus on those. So in the end, and especially for the public investment, it's very paradoxical. We invest more on the least sustainable practices and methods. And another argument is about the focus on input, the effect that it can have on biocontrol as a whole. When you consider biocontrol as inputs only, it means implicitly that you will not really need to redesign the agro-system. So it means that you work in systems that are still based on the use of pesticides, which means that you get a lot of biodiversity loss in the systems. The system can keep simplified. Machineries are still designed for the use of inputs, and all that is about advice, distribution, etc., is for inputs. Effect of that, you get in the system little services of regulation, of pest control and regulation. You can still use high-yielding sensitive cultivars. And the feeling of the stakeholders is that inputs are obviously much more efficient than other techniques. And as a result, in the end, well, you need highly curative inputs because of low regulation and the use of sensitive cultivars, and the perceived cost efficiency are very biased because you feel that inputs, the highly curative inputs, are much better than any other technique, well, biocontrol, but not only. And in turn, you don't change the system, and you continue to focus on input. So in the end, all actors that actually continue to use inputs, think that biocontrol is better like a complement to pesticides, I think in the end contribute to lock the system even more. And so many biocontrol companies actually probably just shoot a bullet in their feet, continuing to think in that way. So what do we propose, and what do we want to encourage via this workshop? Well, the idea is instead to support all types of biocontrol strategies and associated business models, and to work not only on the technical aspects, but also on aspects that are more related to organizational innovation and institutional innovation. Also, we would like to increase the focus in terms of investment on biocontrol innovation, but not in any system, mostly in the most sustainable systems. And just 2 remarks, because it's very often an issue in terms of communication. When I say that, I'm not saying that biocontrol products are bad. I'm not saying we should stop working on biocontrol products or to stop investing on innovation on that. The idea is not that one. It's let's stop focusing only on products, and let's diversify the focus of investment and research and innovation. And so finally, after all that, so why is this workshop? So the idea is actually to make this workshop as a sort of kick-off meeting of a large initiative that would be international and that I hope will involve most of you, to promote organizational and institutional innovation, favoring the growth of all the possible business models that can indeed promote biocontrol in practice. This is already supported by several projects and financing sources in France, but also in Europe. And so today and tomorrow, the idea is to start this. And the first step is to inform, to try to provide you the most comprehensive possible view of this diversity of methods that are available, to try to underline that these strategies use and need different types of business models, and to pave the way for project action that will manage to provide guidelines, analyze the business models, take profit of their success and the failure factors, and we will try, especially on Friday, to think about publication project that will pave the way for that. And I thank you very much for your attention. And then, after a few questions, you will discover, in the end, what is a business model. Thank you. All right, so we got 5 minutes while Aura is connecting her computer. Do you have questions? I may go also on my screen to see if there are questions online, or remarks, or screams. Yes, Christian, a scream, I guess.
You said a real implementation.
Je suis pas sûr que ça fonctionne, mais
Ça marche? Okay, so you said a real implementation of biocontrol would require a deep change in the production system. I don't think the private actors are going to do that by themselves. So what is the place of public policies in your system?
Well, I think
if the question is relevant to what you said, I don't know.
Well, this is, of course, well, probably the main, but also the most difficult question and challenge, actually. Indeed. Of course, everything that I said will need, when I say institutional innovation, it's maybe a way to say we need policies and also public policies encouraging a change of global system. Of course, to generate added value, this is one of the key elements, to work on the downstream part of the value chain, create value, and in the end, not to ask to growers to adopt something that is difficult, complicated, expensive, but no, to more present that as something that is needed and asked by the downstream of the system, creating a need in terms of business, and so that the farmers are willing to do that because they will earn money and they will have new techniques that suit their business needs, actually. And this, of course, will not be done just organizing workshops with scientists, and this definitely needs public policies, starting with a cap, for example, at the EU level. Simon.
Hey, I'm Simon. Maybe the question comes too early, but do you think we have the financing, research financing, the grant proposal and everything, that's going to match what you're calling today? Because in my views, most of the time we're still restricted to a linear innovation model, and that's how we're supposed to write our projects and everything.
Well, the public is mostly researchers, so of course not. We need more financing for research. No, but more, I mean, maybe something that is a little bit less biased. Well, I think that when compared to other fields, we get resources and we can make the system move a little. But of course, for example, one outcome of the discussions I had with the sociologists within the last years made me understand that the effort, and including financial effort, that were put after the Second World War to build new systems using agrochemistry were 1,000 times the effort we are putting now to switch to agroecology. And so there is definitely an issue at the political level and societal level. Well, we don't put the, well, when we think about in France, the Eco-Phyto plan or the Farm to Fork programs at the EU level, we don't take probably the dimension of the need to change a system. And maybe Manuel will tell a words about that tomorrow, but indeed, we are not even on the same level of investment, probably, by public bodies and the industry.
So talking about the amount of money, I was rather asking about the way we describe our innovation and the way we sort of like right now we're supposed to describe it within the TRL framework and which is very linear innovation model, which sort of like keeps us in the old system that you just questioned.
Okay, so you are telling me that everything that I said before was not answering your question. Sorry.
I think it was really interesting. It was really spot on.
No problem. No, well, you're right. I mean, this is something I didn't underline because, well, I was running out of time. But actually, the model of innovation is something that is, I think, included in also business models. The fact that we are putting all the responsibility of innovation on the upstream industry means that we have only one model of innovation. Well, I'm exaggerating a little, but not so much, with well, the labs and the companies and extension services, then the distributors, etc. And indeed, we need to diversify also that part with living labs, open innovation, whatever you call them. But we need to change, of course, the way we organize innovation. One last question, or okay, one last. Vincent.
Yes, I'm just wondering how the big chemicals company in France are watching this kind of innovative strategy, because the agroeconomy is based on mostly on chemicals, you said. So, but
well, I don't know. We should ask them. But well, my feeling about that is that, well, first, I think that all companies are economic organisms, so they tend to maximize their fitness given the constraints. And for example, one of their constraints is that all their system is designed for the current systems, and they have mostly chemists in their R&D services in terms of proportion. And so, well, I cannot expect that they are happy to have a fast transition, because it means, well, something impossible to kind of organize a turnover of hundreds of persons inside their company. Well, must be a problem. So I expect them to be like open in the long run, because, well, in the end they can adapt and they will generate profit. The added value is there. I mean, so they can adapt, but not too fast. So probably this is their position, to be open to this, but not too fast. So we have a representative of IBMA wanting
yes,
to give a word.
A short reaction on your question. I'm from IBMA France. So we gather the companies producing biocontrol products, and just to say that the companies, they are very diverse. It's not only the agrochemical, but you have small companies, medium companies, and not all are, they are also biologists there. Historically, they are also not only chemical profile. Just to highlight, we have a great diversity. And I agree that not only the companies will change the system by themselves. It's a really multi-stakeholder work.
And again, they are organisms answering constraints, so if you don't change the constraints,